Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time. Tonight, we'll look at a few things on field and off field, but mainly just a couple changes on the admin front, hopefully for the better, that will allow us to plan our lives a little bit more and help us integrate our rugby, weekends, midweek, and otherwise a little bit more efficiently. So just looking at a bit of the feedback that's come in from individuals, from clubs, from different people around different pathways in different parts of the province, we've set up a few targets, obviously with the end goal being, and something we've talked about a little bit last season a few times, but the ultimate goal of, kind of everyone enjoying what we're doing, ourselves as match officials, coaches, players, spectators, and the like. But that ultimate goal of making easy to follow decisions. So 3 ingredients that we'll be referring to kind of as we go in person and online this season is enjoyment, mentorship, and work rate. And what we mean by that is not necessarily work rate in the sense of just going hard every time, but seeing how smart we can be physically, tactically, technically, mentally, and administration wise. We'll mention a few times a little bit about mentorship and what that looks like. So not only relying on input from, those people in positions of authority, so coaches or coaches of match officials, but our peers, our friends, and trying to collaborate in the sense of sharing information, both on the pitch and what we do here midweek. And finally, enjoyment, based on game understanding and having the confidence to develop our own styles as individuals. Contrary to what some people might believe, we're not out to create an army of 157, hopefully more this year, robots, but people that can express themselves in the game and allow everyone to enjoy themselves. Because again, rugby's fun, and we should all aspire to that end. So we won't go through all of these 16 points here in the contents, but this is available in your back pocket. It's in your email inbox, in PDF format, etc. But effectively tonight we'll be looking at kind of how to develop that process ourselves in and around those big decisions, around breakdown, set piece, space, and the like. So we'll dive into the fun stuff. So we're going to look at a few clips. And what I want to focus on is developing that process to basically get to that easy to follow decision. We're not going to be able to do it every time. We're not going to have a perfect game, but hopefully we can start to think in terms of a more systematic approach to how we get to, that thing that, most people care about. And again, the aim is not to get everyone to agree with us and everyone to get on the same page in terms of the outcome. But at least if everyone understands how we got to whatever decision or non-decision we eventually arrive at, that's really the aim, is just getting everyone to understand, yeah, okay, I understand what we're on about, if that makes sense. So before we dive into it, so when we look at our first few clips, they'll generally be around general play, so ball in hand, ball being kicked, all that kind of stuff. Breakdown, so the contact point, tackle, jackal, counter ruck, all that good stuff, and space, and where it's required around the field. And effectively, we've talked about this for the last few years. The things we actually do on the field, we move 95% of our activity during the 80 or 60 or whatever minutes, or 14 in the 7-a-side game, is around movement. And effectively those cues to keep front of mind, staying north-south, so obviously towards the attacking goalposts whenever possible. Observing, so locking in, all right, which team and which individual is or are under pressure, and what action is relevant. Leading into our decide phase, which is, all right, what do we need to see? So at the very basic levels, we've talked about it for the last few years in terms of our key focus area that hasn't really changed a lot, at least since I've been involved in 2018, is, tackler. So if that tackler is on the wrong side, what do we actually need to see? The language of not in the way of the ball, the contest, as a nice action of what we need to decide on. Leading into our decide phase, which is what do we need to see from that person? Are they in the way? Are they not in the way? And obviously the context around what we're looking at will inform that decision. And finally, communicate. And we don't necessarily mean what we say, from a verbal point of view, but what does the game need? Does it need nothing in terms of no action from us, no input? Does it need some management in terms of like, hey, seven, leave the ball. All right, cool. Or does it need a decision? Bang, penalty, tackler's in the way, or bang, holding on, et cetera, et cetera. And just as a process here for the purpose of this activity, we're going to look at it one time, and then I'm going to ask you in the chat if you can find it. It's that little dialogue boxes with the three dots in it. You can just fire in a couple of words for what you would say. Forget about what the referee's actually doing, but where do we want to be? So obviously ball in line north-south, but do we want to be on an angle? Do we want to be a little bit further away? Do we want to be closer? So I'll challenge you after our first view of this first clip, just to fire it into the chat in as few words as possible of where we want to move and where we want to get to. Sweet. Awesome. So most of us, again, getting into that language of, obviously being ball in line when we can. So as the ball's passed, obviously we need to move a little bit to let the traffic go by, but obviously getting back to that ball line position when we can. But one bit of language we're going to try and introduce a little bit more often this year, as peers in the mentorship and coaching process, is really fighting to stay on that infield side. So here, obviously, it's an easy example. The ball's all the way on the edge, in fact, a little bit further than where the attack probably wanted to go, outside the 5-meter line. Obviously, it's easy to get in a good position, a bit wider, a bit flatter, but on the infield side. And the key to success here is as we move from the first phase to the second, which is our decision-making phase, we want to stay as much as possible on the open field side. But if we had to again, we're not going to focus too much on the referees that we see in the pictures, but we want to get into a spot where we're still facing towards those attacking goalposts so that we can see all the space in front of us, if that makes sense. So next phase, we'll watch it a second time, but what I will challenge you to do is we'll focus on our observe phase. So again, it doesn't mean that we're asking the referee to blow the whistle, but who's under pressure and what action is relevant. So if the defending team is under a bit of pressure, that's great. That's half the battle. But which action is relevant? So are we talking about a tackler, a jackler, inside defenders getting back on side, outside defenders not closing down the space? That's all we're looking for. So who's under pressure, attack or defense, and what action is relevant. And we'll see if we can come up with some common language. So let's watch it one more time, and then we'll fire it into the chat. Awesome. So feel free, far away. Again, who's under pressure, attack or defense, and which action is relevant? Are we talking about tackler, jackler, inside defense, outside defense? Or something else, maybe a cleaner counter ruck effort. Awesome. So just looking at a couple of the comments. So what I love about it is it doesn't really matter, what your actual assessment is. It just matters what your process is. So if we're saying, and some of you said the defense are under a bit of pressure here, because we see, hips turn to touchline, hips turn to touchline, hips turn to touchline, player not quite back on side yet, and players recovering back into position, all hips towards the touchline, 12 repositioning. So again, if ever we're doing these exercises, either as small groups or individuals or large groups, as long as your why is good, then we're fine. We can follow that. But what we're looking at is as we get to this next phase. So if we are in a position and we understand and we believe that this player isn't back on side, awesome. We need that midfield defender in that 13 channel to start on side, but we have to make that decision. Did it have an impact? So if we're deciding on that person, did they get in the way? Bang, we see here ball's lifted. If you decide that that's an impact, great. We have a decision. If you're feeling, you know what, the 13's interesting, but they're not quite a problem, then again, our decision would be to play on. As we get to the second phase, most people that said defense under pressure, we're interested in this collision. And it's a really good read because obviously we have a few things going on. We have a jackler ready to get in position because they're not part of the tackle here. We have a tackler who's on the ground, and we have a tackler who's come in a high-ish position under the ball. So they might become a tackle assist. And as we watch this play develop, obviously the tackle assist picture is gone because number 10 blue ends up on the ground and ends up on their own side. And then we have to make a decision on, okay, we have a jackal here. Tackler's not in the way. First tackler's not in the way. Cool. If we're deciding, now we're looking at the jackler. Are they in a position to lift? Would be our language. Bang, job done. Ball available. So even though this action required no decision, we're ready to go on what might happen. So we're going, all right, we might have an issue here. We might have an issue here. Bang. Off we go. So that allows us to move on a little bit earlier. So if we decide, all right, we're looking at jackler, whether or not to reward. Are they in a position to lift the ball? Yes or no? Cool. The ball's the decider. Oh, ball's available. And now we see the referee moving on to space straight away. So that's the space we want to be in, is every single collision. Who's under pressure? All right, which action's relevant? Okay, cool, moving on to the next phase. Or that action, it's a little bit slowish. I see someone coming in late. All right, 7, leave the ball, move on. Or we expect quick ball, tackler gets in the way, bang, penalty. Again, it doesn't matter really the outcome as long as we start refereeing here as opposed to waiting for the collision to happen and trying to go through a checklist. We've talked about this a lot, but we try to get away from the old checklist mentality of tackler, ball carrier, jackler, cleanup, because by the time we get to that fourth step, the ball's probably gone or the wrong team has the ball, if that makes sense. Questions, comments, challenges before we move on? Feel free to fire it in the chat, unmute, whatever suits you best. Cool. We will move on, but again, I'm always happy to chat offline if something didn't make sense to you. Or again, feel free to connect with your peers through Coach Logic. The beauty is all these clips are up there. If you just keyword search things like tackler, jackler, and I'll show you that in a few moments, you can actually access the clip, ask a few questions to peers privately or publicly, whatever you say. So, second one. Again, apologies for the color clash. We're trying to work with clubs on this to be more communicative. It is a black and green team against the blue team. So we're looking at movement to start. Okay, this time I'll flip the question a little bit. when we're talking about movement here, let's think about where we're going to arrive. So obviously, it's a half line break, it's a quick tap penalty. So we have to work pretty hard to get ball in line immediately. But let's assume, we're in a good ball in line position. Based on where we are in the field, where do we want to end up when it's decision-making time and or management time based on where we are? So the question I'll ask you is, where do we want to be and why? Feel free to reflect on that and fire it into the chat when you are ready. Okay, so looking at a few of the comments, a lot of specifics, but let's take a step back and look a little bit more generally. So if we have a quick tap, first of all, I mean, this is Division 2, but it's pretty good tactics when it comes to the black team here. When we have a quick tap in the right moment, and I'm talking about an actual quick tap, when the defense is still having to work hard to get back their 10 meters. In one word, what is the defense having to deal with here? Feel free to unmute, fire it in the chat. Challenge if you disagree. Oh, I love that. Well done, Rupert. Overwhelm, pressure, disorganization, gaps. I'm going to fire one in myself. Chaos. So my friends in the coaching world, this is when they try to encourage quick taps, when there's an opportunity to create chaos. Obviously, in the right areas of the field, they're just outside the attacking 22-meter line, and they're attacking an edge where they can isolate 1, 2, 3 players that have to work backwards, and then a couple of players having to come across, which even if they get the defense successful in terms of they get to 10 meters, they make their tackle, they don't infringe, because obviously we're expecting the defense to infringe here, or the attack to get the ball. They work to an edge in an effort to lock in. And now we look at what the chaos is, all these defenders having to work backwards and to defend that edge. So if we count the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 defenders out the game, plus a tackler on the ground. So 9 defenders out the game. Few kind of still in the picture, still in the fight. But now we're ending up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12, 13, 14 players from the black and green team who are still, threats, either threats to space for the next phases or threats to the ball immediately. So now a couple of you said, I want to get close. So there's a couple of issues with that and challenges to your process. Is if the quick tap happens here and they successfully get to an edge here on the 5-meter line, the likelihood of us getting into that, some people said 3 to 5 meters, it's impossible. Doesn't matter who you are or if you train 7 days a week or not, you are not getting from this position to this position at any level of rugby. So positionally, when we think about getting to an edge, and some of you may remember a few years ago, we worked on those zones, middle of the field obviously being transition zones, edges of the field being contest zones. In a contest zone, there's nothing usually to manage. It's either play on or we make a decision. Simply because there are fewer numbers, one of the teams is going to have a surplus. So if we look here, Black team a little bit later than they wanted to be, but this is our decision-making zone. So if we lock in here, we see this tackler. Those of you who have made tackles in your careers as players, this is probably not the ideal body position. Your legs are far away from the target. So you're probably going to make the tackle, but not have full control of your body. So if we're looking at refereeing the tackler, we want to be able to go, right, if I'm refereeing the tackler, all I need to see, are they in the way? And as we go through, bang. This is a decision-making zone. We are either going to have quick ball if we had this player deputizing at halfback a little bit quicker, where they can attack this space here with all the players retreating, or let's say the tackler gets into a good position, we're going to have a contest and probably a turnover. So being wide, even 10 meters away here on the 15 and not venturing too far into that 15, all we need to do is make sure we get in a position where we can see our decision-making point, which is this tackler. We ask the question, are they in the way? So bang, there's our first tackler. Still there. Jackler comes into the picture. Referee's already put the brakes on and is already like, tackler, are they in the way? I've got a jackler here now. Bang, easy decision. All right, questions, comments, challenges to that process in that picture. So again, deciding to go into management mode has to be a decision that you script a little bit earlier in the process. If we are near the goal line and there's lots of congestion and lots of players from both teams, and one team is probably going to try and consolidate and look for pick and go and play a different way, very slow, as attacking coaches like to say, they either play very slow or very fast. If the expectation is not quick ball for any stakeholders, then awesome, we're in a management zone because we don't really want to give away slow ball penalties. But if we get to an edge and there's chaos, we're either going to have a turnover because the defense is quicker to respond to the chaos, or we're going to expect quick ball. And if we don't get one of those two outcomes, depending on the context of the situation, we need a decision. Or clean out as a hero, ball's gone, life is good, we need nothing. So changing that mindset of, oh, I have to manage, because you can't manage from here. So to make it very simple, use those lines on the field. In the middle of the 15s, probably even numbers, a little bit more congestion. We're going to be closer naturally, opportunity to maybe manage, because players might change the direction of play. They might employ a kicking game, et cetera, et cetera. They might choose to play differently. When they successfully get to an edge or unsuccessfully, we're in a situation where the attack are either going to get exactly what they want in terms of they have support, they've got to go forward, awesome, quick ball is on, or the reverse. They got to an edge, support's a bit slow, the defense are there earlier, and we have contest or turnover. Great question, Trevor. So when we talk about an edge, we don't necessarily mean like the touch line or whatever and all that kind of stuff. Edges are often that last defender in the line. Typically, that's going to be on the 15 or on the 5, depending on the picture. Territorially, sorry for my stumble of words, territorially, obviously being near the 22 amplifies the situation a little bit more, but it's not necessarily relevant, because obviously the first principle of rugby is go forward. The second principle of rugby is support. So if they're in this space, that's great. They need to have support, but we have to start reading that picture right away. Okay, who's really under pressure, defense or attack? If we choose the defense is under pressure, awesome. We're assuming the attack should have support. So we're zooming in on this tackler. Cool. Are they in the way? Oh, look, they're still there. Awesome. A jackler is there. And I don't know if Lance is on the call, but I think if he doesn't mind, the question I posed of him sending this clip was, what did you penalize?
I penalized the tackler not rolling away prior to the jackler getting their hands on the ball. Like typically, I was too far away to manage it, so typically I would try verbalize, no hands to give that tackler that half second to roll away. But with the jackler there, that gives them no time to roll away. So if I can verbalize, manage it, and they don't put their hands on the ball, the tackler rolls away, then we can play on. But in that situation, Jackler had his hands on the ball, and there was definitely no clear path for the ball.
Perfect. So, and again, and that was the reason I posed the question to you, Lance, back in the late 24-25 season, was you look at your body language here, and you are a pro management referee, which is fine. That's part of your style. It's part of your identity. But there's no physical pillar that will help you to be able to get in a position to do that. But also, putting ourselves into the empathy space. And again, empathy is having an understanding of what both teams want to achieve. The defense just want to survive here. They just want to not concede a try. The attack, they want to score a try. And you know what? They've earned somewhat of a right to apply pressure. So if we're in that zone of we're either in territory pressure, like Trevor was saying, inside the 22, or we successfully get to an edge with support, the expectation is a decision one way or another. So when we manage, we have to go, all right, is there a chance of successfully managing? And am I managing the game for just one team or the other? So if we are superhuman and we get to, this ideal, some people would say arrive on the 45 and all these great little terms. Yeah, that's awesome. If we're robots and we can run at 50 kilometers an hour and we can get to this space, do we even want to manage? Because by the time we say roll away, and by the time the tackler says, okay, I guess I'll roll away, our less than 3 second ball maybe becomes a more than 3 second ball. And for those of you who have recently or are still playing, that obviously makes a big difference. And I'll challenge back a little bit on that last comment, Lance. Expectations to the level of play. We can sometimes drag down the level of play with a little bit of over management, or we can drag down the level of play with not enough management. So thinking about our context is key. If we're in the situation, we've got the quick tap, we've chosen to not get involved with the marginal not 10. That's great. We have to be, all right, cool. We've let the defense kind of skate on the thin ice. We have to make sure they don't get out of jail a second time. If they do everything perfect here, get out the way and they get the jackal, great for them. Bang, holding on. If they don't, and that tackler is in the road, we have to make a decision right there and then. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, and Hunter and Sarah, just on your thing, and you see a lot in the international game because obviously the audio quality is quite good. When we see Jackler, no, leave it, or as one of my friends who refereed a game recently tends to say a lot and she's trying to get out of that habit. She's saying don't compete or no compete. The challenge becomes, okay, are we actually enabling them to slow the ball down willfully by over managing? So it all comes back to where are we on the field, not just north south, but if we get to an edge and one team has support and the other team doesn't, we should be more in a mindset of, all right, does this matter? So it's either bang or nothing, or bang the other way, or we're just waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, ruck speed. It's all about ruck speed, isn't it, Chris? And not allowing a team to slow down the ruck.
100%. And when, again, not allowing a team to slow the ruck down when they're under pressure. If they're applying pressure, so if the defense is owning the gain line and they make a positive tackle, then obviously we're going to have more bodies in the way because the attack are going backwards. And we're going to allow the defense to get out the way because they've done something positive. They've gone forward. But if we don't have that positive impact from the defense, and here I don't think there's anyone that can argue that the defense is in control here, we're expecting quick ball. So again, going back to the very basics, who's under pressure? If we say the defense, awesome. What are they going to do about it? the onus is on them. And we can flip the script if we have a positive tackle, great line speed, and a tackle behind the gain line, then obviously the attack are under pressure. And then we might referee something different. Maybe we're not worried about tackler and jackler. We might be worried about a side entry from the attack because they're having to run back towards their own goal line to make a clean out. Sweet. So that is the whole principle behind the key focus areas and kind of how we set up to referee each phase. We can't simply react to every collision or everything that happens and then go, yeah, I wonder what I should do. We don't have enough time to do that. The game at every level is much too quick for that in 2025. So we won't get into more clips, but again, I'll leave this for you guys. All these clips are there. There's different ones. But again, these are not words you necessarily need to implant into your brain. But if you can develop a process around, all right, where to move and when to move, what I need to observe, what's relevant, all right, what's determining my decision, and how I'm going to communicate, either nothing, manage, or making my decision. Once we can develop those steps, using clips and all that kind of stuff and practicing it when we get into a game, it starts to become a little bit more autopilot. But using those context clues, massive. So where are we on the field? Who's going forward? Who has the support? Even simpler, who's under pressure? What are they going to do about it? Awesome.
Is this going to be the last try? No.
So just before we dive into the admin bits and pieces, just something to always practice. And I know sometimes we hear commentators and sometimes match officials, referees, TMOs, on those international matches on TV, kind of get the process wrong. We just have to understand what our process is, practice it over and over and over again to get these big moments, especially these head contact, massive impact moments, so that we don't underreact or overreact. So looking at 3 easy enough ones if we have a process. So bang, looking at our context here, the blue team applying pressure, getting to an edge right away. If we're locked in and we go, all right, the gold team are under pressure, what are they going to do about it? Well, this player decides to fly out the line. They're gonna say, right, you know what? I'm gonna disconnect from my defensive line and I'm gonna fly up to apply time and space pressure into that equation. And Trevor, we'll dive into that question. It's a really good one at the end. The answer is yes and no. But seeing as the number 7 here from the gold team flies out the line, bang. This is when we start our process. How would we describe the body position of this person in one word? Feel free to unmute or fire into the chat.
Upright.
Beautiful. I love it. Lance going for the attacking move here. Poor, but obviously whatever language you want to use in your brain. Are they upright? Are they in poor? Are they compromised? Are they late to the party? Upright. So what are we refereeing? We're refereeing this person, and basically we're starting head contact process right now. Because if we start here, after the player is on the ground and injured, we're now in a situation where we're guessing. So we want to be in a spot where we go, right, I'm starting to referee this process now. I see an upright defender. I'm in head contact process already. And then we ask the first question, is there head contact? I would argue yes, the head snaps backwards. Second question, is it foul play? We've already answered it. We have an upright player in open space. Awesome. Is it avoidable or is it foul play? Either way, yes. Cool. We're already into our process. Our third question would be our degree of danger. Again, we already have it because we have the information already preloaded in our brain. This player is flying out the line at speed. So if they're flying out the line at speed, our degree of danger is most definitely going to be high, barring some last-minute adjustment where they get a lot of force through the chest and we just get a little bit of a graze to the jaw. So we have foul play, as we have head contact. We have foul play because we have an upright person who could have gotten lower. It's a high degree of danger because they're flying out the line. And we get to our last step, which is often misplaced in a lot of people's processes, is their mitigation. If we have line of sight, we have an upright person flying out the line, and we have a fairly static ball carrier, the answer to that question is no. So we get to one outcome and one outcome only. We get to red card. And in this situation, that's what we give. Cool. Questions, comments, challenges on that process, or the lead up to that process, I should say.
Chris, I have a question about the ball carrier. As a referee, this is youth rugby. What do you do with that ball carrier when you've seen them have a significant head contact?
Stop the game.
Yeah. And then what?
Well, let's go. Are we looking at this process in particularly, or anytime a ball carrier is on the ground in this scenario?
No, I'm looking at any time there's significant head contact in a youth game. Do we look to send off? Do we look to allow the coach to make that call, or what do we do as a ref?
So we're talking about recognize and remove now, right?
Yeah.
So just so we're all clear, we're not talking about decision-making refereeing. Let's say we have a rugby accident, a ball carrier smashed their head into a knee and we know it's play on, but we know they're on the ground and they need help. Obviously, recognize and remove is the responsibility of us as match officials. It's the responsibility of the players themselves and the coaches. What I would suggest, Dwayne, obviously we've stopped the game, we've separated the teams. If we have no foul play process to go through, we're checking on the injured player anyway. And then we would obviously allow the people that are there, athletic therapists and coaches and all that kind of stuff. Normally they come to the right outcome. If they haven't and they go, oh, this player is fine, and you have significant doubts because of the mechanism of the collision and the potential signs and symptoms you're seeing, then obviously we're obligated to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this player continuing. And I don't think it's a youth rugby thing or a senior rugby thing. It's an all rugby thing. We don't change depending on the level, because again, adults are just susceptible to this type of trauma as youth. But we have to be sensible, take our time and space. We had a couple of incidents over the summer where referees may have went to that recognize and remove place. I wouldn't say prematurely, but they didn't take a breath. So we take a breath. We ideally let the medical personnel, coaches make their decision. If at that point they're like, this player is good to continue and you're not comfortable, we recognize and we remove. Is that okay?
Yeah. My challenge is most of the time in development rugby or youth rugby, there's just not a lot of medical professionals. It's a lot of times the coach. So I kind of get that. Let the coach take the lead. And then if you don't feel comfortable with the decision being made, then step in and make a decision on your own.
100%.
Okay.
It's a really good, and then that, even if you're fairly confident that that player needs to leave, letting someone else kind of handle the injured player and taking a step back allows you just to calm down and assess the facts. And if we're dealing with foul play, it also gives you time and space. So as a process, let's play this in real time. So it's a good example because Shanda hadn't had any ARs in this scenario, despite it being a pretty big blue versus gold game a couple of years ago. But being by yourself, notice the things that Shanda's doing. Obviously, going through foul play and going through head contact process. But does anyone notice what she does after she blows her whistle here? So she stops the game.
Yeah, time off.
Yeah, stop, exactly. But how does she stop the game? And this is key, especially for those of us who are new to like higher impact rugby. A lot of times we just go time off and we wave our arms and it's not clear. If we know it's foul play, we have our primary signal. We stop the game. Then we go time off. So we've stopped the game. It's going to be a penalty. Everyone knows that's the very, very minimal sanction that's going to be given. Now we have time off. What do we do after that? So we've stopped the game. What's our number one concern right now? Yeah, but sorry, challenge you back, Jen. Safety for whom? Who's in trouble right now? Who needs care?
The blue 10.
100%. The player who just got hit in the head. They need care. So forget everything else. We need to make sure that blue 10 is looked after. So now this game, obviously, it's played in a pretty good spirit. The body language of the players, Chloe, who does quite a bit of refereeing, obviously very concerned for what just happened. She's not yelling at the referee. She's like, oh my goodness, is my friend okay? Couple of people wondering, what's going on. A couple of people very concerned faces because this was just in the lead up to an international tour with a very important player who was the tackler. So we don't have a possibility of players running in. This is another reason, though, why we have to we stop the game, we look after the injured player, we separate the teams. Super important, because if someone goes over and pushes someone, I don't care about flashpoints or punches. If someone falls on that injured player, now we could be in deep trouble. So we stop the game. Obviously, if we already have a decision, bang, penalty signals there. Cool. Now time off. We look after the injured player. We separate the teams. And then we can go through our process. So here already, you saw the little look over the right shoulder. Shanda sees, oh, these players are moving backwards. These players aren't running in. The person who did the tackle is pretty passive, so the player is okay. Now we can go through the process. This is relatively quick. Therapist comes on the field, all that good stuff. But the process is the same regardless of the level. So we see the impact come in, bang. If we have foul play, great, blow the whistle, give the penalty signal, then time off, look after the injured player, separate the teams, then we can go through our process. Buying time by letting the medical people do their thing. If we have a proper AR, rather than my colleague John over here, who is obviously very concerned, we can buy that time, we can have that conversation. But again, all guided by our process. Hey, I have seen head contact, John. The player is upright, so it is foul play. It is head on head at high speed, so I'm on a high degree of danger, and I don't see any mitigating factors. Do you have anything else to add? Usually the answer is going to be no. All right, cool, we're on red card. We have the time, we just have to decompress and take it. Sweet, but no, great question and interjection by you, Mr. Mills. Other one, I'll just walk through it nice and quickly. So first collision we're not worried about. And the reason we're not worried about it is bang, we have two tacklers bent at the knees, bent at the hips. If we have head contact here, we're not going to be in foul play anyway. So we're not actually going to be in head contact process. We're going to be on play on. So we're not even refereeing this. We move on nice and quickly. We're actually refereeing the next moment that comes up. Turnover happens. We're in proximity. We're watching number 2 come in from a bit of a distance. Whack. Head contact happens. So based on what we see here, we have to start refereeing it here. Great. Radar isn't going off. I don't see upright people. There could be head contact here because this player comes in a bit low. It's not foul play. So you're already ready for, oh, that guy hit me in the head. Yeah, but everyone's low. It's not foul play. Next step, great. Oh, we have an isolated ball carrier. Jackler steals the ball. They stand up with the ball. Awesome. Now we're moving on. Oh, they're held up a little bit. Now we see the player come in, whack. Shoulder makes contact with head. You watch Derek here, he's already got that in his vision. So a slightly different picture, but same process. Whack. So we go through it. Is there head contact? Yes, I've seen the shoulder make contact with the head. Amazing. Is it foul play? Yes, number 2 came in upright. Now, did they use their arms? We're going to say they did. So we're not in this always illegal, no mitigation territory. What's the degree of danger? We can say it's pretty high because it's flush contact as opposed to glancing contact. Again, those are words in the head contact process that we can use in our back pocket. Flush contact with the head, high degree of danger language. And then again, we go to that mitigating step at the end of the process. And while we have one tackler, we have a ball carrier that's shifting, and then we have a change of height at the end. So we can go head contact, foul play because number 2 is upright, high degree of danger because it was flush contact, mitigating factor of a change in direction because of the actions of the second tackler. Yellow card. And as long as we're comfortable, so you don't have to memorize those 4 things right here and now, but we should be able to watch some video and use that very simple language. Is there head contact? Is there foul play? Ergo, are they upright? Could they have avoided it? Is it a high or not high degree of danger? Guiding language, flush contact, glancing contact, force through the chest, all that kind of stuff. There's only 2 answers, high, not high. And then we go for mitigation if there's a sudden and significant change in height or direction. So again, just feeding us the things to go away and practice, but that's what we need to be able to do. Last one, as I speed through here. Anyone here who watched Canada versus the USA men in the Pacific Nations Cup? Apologies to Jen or other friends from the United States on this call, but did anyone notice a particular head contact process TMO intervention in that game? Feel free to unmute, because it's exactly the same picture as we have on our screen right now. No? All right, I will walk us through it. So in that, oh, we have a comment in the chat. Yes, but we have qualified for the World Cup. I'm just saying. No, kidding. In that game, there was a TMO interjection. The TMO came in, check, I'm going to show you, which 9 times out of 10 means there's going to be yellow or red card or one of these off-field review things going on. The referee, very comfortable in the head contact process, Luke Pierce, said, okay, I've seen head contacts. Let's go through it here. Whack. Here's our head contact. It is foul play because the player could have gotten lower. So they're bent at the hips, but not really bent at the knees. Then he went through the degree of danger and he said, it's not a high degree of danger. So if we stop the process there, head contact, foul play, not high danger, we could arrive at a yellow card. But there is a mitigating factor that we can consider. Lance, beautiful. A passive tackle. So passive used to be part of the degree of danger process. Now it's in mitigation. So if we see the tackler passive, meaning their feet are planted and they're not going forward or upwards into the tackle, or in community rugby, very simple. Did they lose the collision? So watching the actions of this tackler, bang. The tackler fell backwards, clearly lost the collision. They were backpedaling. They were on their heels. So that we would consider passive as opposed to active and dynamic into the collision itself. So backing ourselves. And again, sometimes we might even, Luke Pierce showed the example. He had a TMO basically leading him down the yellow to red card pathway. And he said, whoa. Yes, I have head contact. Yes, it's foul play because they could have gone lower, but it's not a high degree of danger, and I'm seeing a passive tackler. I'm on penalty only. Big moment in that game. Big moment in this game. So whether we're alone, we have a community touch judge, an AR, our best friend, or a TMO and an FPRO, we have to back ourselves in the process. And it starts right here. We see someone who's not really flying out the line. They're a little bit compromised, a little bit upright. We see head contact. They fall backwards. We can bang in the penalty. We can play a bit of advantage. No one's in danger. Agreed, Peter McDonald. Poor form, but again, there is head contact. They are upright, not a high degree of danger, and they're passive. Penalty only. Bang. Anyone on the call quickly want to fire into the chat? If we have a penalty only, and we don't want to go through the whole rigmarole because we haven't, you're not Luke Pierce. You haven't got someone showing you on the screen, convincing you or arguing it's a yellow card. It's a community game. You're by yourself, and you have a head contact, upright foul play, not high degree danger, and a passive tackler, and you're going to give a penalty. What's the easiest way to explain it to a community rugby team? Beautiful, Rupert. High tackle. We don't need to overcomplicate it. If our outcome is penalty only, high tackle. Easy, done. And Peter, just before we move on, head contact play on. The easiest explanation is yes, there's head contact. For me, they're bent at the knees, bent at the waist. They've used their arms. They've done everything right. It's just a rugby accident. I hope the guy's okay. So in the interest of time, again, all these resources are in your back pocket. Heading into our first month, so these are our new key focus areas. You should have them in your inbox. If you click or tap on any of those titles, you will have the full video, if you will, of those 2 to 3 minute pieces where we show positive and negative examples of each picture. But these are the ones really I know there's lots. I know there's 20 boxes, but really the ones to look at in that first game of the season and to keep front of mind, tackler, jackler, having those pictures locked in our mind, and those definitions. So tackler not in the way of the ball, jackler in a position to lift the ball. If we have that picture and language locked in, we'll be set up for success. When it comes to set piece, setting up our scrums, setting up our lineouts and our mauls, that is what we want to be doing. We have total control over the setup process. It's a great recentering and refocusing mechanism as well if we're under a bit of pressure. Foul play and head contact, again, knowing when to start the process, identifying upright people before they come into the collision zone, and having those 4 questions in our brain locked in. Is there head contact? Is it foul play? What's the degree of danger? Are there any mitigating factors? And one thing to highlight, because it did come into all competitions from age grades, girls, boys, seniors, men's, women's, all the way from U14 to Premier, croc rolls are still happening. A lot of times in the senior levels, juniors, most coaches, and I know Peter and Rupert and a few of us coach some juniors as well on the call. It's not a technique we generally teach anymore, but a croc roll is still a thing. So being mindful of that. Really quick example.
Backline. Willem scoots around, pushes it out wide. Trinity Western.
So this is when to identify a croc roll. We have a jackler in position and a late or compromised cleaner. So there's 2 ingredients to a croc roll. Number 1 is the clamp. Number 2 is the twist or collapse. Here, the player decides differently. They do not clamp. They kind of do a flyby. There's a bit of a leg lift, not a croc roll. Play on. They basically concede the holding on penalty, but no croc roll. But again, we're refereeing the croc roll from here. So do I have a late or compromised cleaner? Do I have a clamp? And then do I have a quick twist or collapse landing on lower limbs? No, we don't. The jackler is actually still upright holding the ball. Awesome. No croc roll. But we have to know what the picture looks like when it's done almost right and when it's done wrong. Juxtaposition. Same venue, different teams. Again, later compromised arrival, watching the actions of 15, who's actually the cleaner, fighting to get back on their side. Jackler is well over the ball. This is the clamp. We can all see the clamp. And this would be the twist and collapse. Once more. Oops, apologies. So it all goes back to who's under pressure. So again, I'm sorry that Burnaby and UBC couldn't decide who was going to wear blue that day, but the light blue player is obviously the team going back to gather the ball. They're under tons of pressure, and we have a jackler coming into the picture. Jackler gets over the ball. We're not concerned about a hand on the ground or whether they're through the gate and all that, because it's extreme isolation. This person has to be committing a felony to be penalized. But now we look at the actions of 15. They have to do something. They're late. They're beat for height. They're beat for space. They try to do a little chug on the jersey. Doesn't work. So they go with what they've been taught when they were probably an under 16 player, unfortunately. The clamp right near the hips, kind of on the belly button or sometimes on the chest. And then the lever. It's actually a great jackal. Look how they've even lifted the ball carrier off the ground. And croc roll. Good question, Derek and Sarah. So croc roll process, not the same as a head contact process. There's no such thing as mitigation. It's quite a simple process. So is it a croc roll is the first question. So we're looking for a clamp followed by a twist or collapse. Job one. Then we go, all right, penalty, yellow card, red card. A penalty this is basically a penalty. It's a drop or twist with no pressure on the lower limbs. So you see how 15 falls away and the lower limbs aren't trapped. They're free. That would be a penalty only. If you saw a game that I might have been involved in involving Canada and USA women, some would have said it was an orange card. There was a clamp and then a twist and a drop, and the knee kind of got a little bit hyperextended, but there was no direct drop on the lower limbs itself. That'd be a yellow card. So a yellow card would be clamp, twist, and some pressure on the lower limbs. So if you want to go to great danger, you're like, it's not quite high. Yellow card. Red card, usually they're pretty obvious. We won't show that. If you want to see what a red card croc roll looks like, when I show you Coach Logic, you go into Team Room, you keyword search croc roll, you will find it. That is when there is a twist and collapse with a large amount of pressure on the lower limb, with that leg being stuck, or a direct target of the lower limb. Those are red card behaviors. But going back to our process rather than our outcome, to be able to pick these up live, we have to start refereeing them here. So we have a jackler in great position. We're expecting them to win the ball. Now we're looking at the clean out. We could have a side entry. We could have no arms. We could have off feet. Now the thing we have to add to our repertoire in terms of cleaner behaviors is croc roll. Law changes and trials. We've already been through it pre-school season, because the schools competitions have employed it rather than all our club competitions, because we start in September, schools start in post-January. But these are now in law across all competitions in Canada and in British Columbia. Croc rolls, obviously still a thing. No scrum from a free kick. In front of kicker is not put onside by a pass or run from the opposition. Conversion time, 60 seconds, same as a penalty kick. Line out formed or scrum. This is actually a typo, my bad. I'll fix that. Formed within 30 seconds. Please do not free kick this. Manage it as much as you can. Not straight throw from a line out. When there is no player lifted is play on. That's our trigger. It's not contest. It's not credible. It is literally someone that just has to be lifted off the ground. That is the definition that World Rugby has provided after they initially said no contest. A player part of a ruck or maul, so anyone who is engaged with their shoulder in a ruck or maul, is not allowed to disrupt the halfback, either by hitting hands or grabbing the ball out their hands or tackling them. Anyone who's onside and not in that ruck or maul, they can still tackle the halfback. So I know there's a bit of confusion around that 1 meter exclusion zone. It's just a player part of the ruck and maul, can't touch the halfback. Offside line at a scrum, again, bit of confusion from the school's feedback I was receiving in some parts of the world. The offside line is the middle line of the scrum. If they choose to start at the middle line of the scrum, they may drop to the number 8's feet of their team and move from touch line to touch line. Okay, these are here. We won't go through them, but these are your key reminders for 14, 16s, and 18s in our age grade competitions, which are starting very, very soon with 7s on the 7th and 15s after Kamloops. Got some common clarifications for 7s, again, in your back pocket. Please use them. Registration. So love the fact that we have 87 people responded to the availability survey. There are only 52 registered referees in British Columbia at the moment. So please, 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 we'll go through the appointments process in a moment. Get yourself registered. So if you're a player or a coach and you've already registered through that mechanism, go back to your club on their Sport Lomo application, choose referee. If it's not there, let me know, I'll add it. And you should be able to, if you're a player, it should be free. If you're a senior player. If you're a junior player, you pay a little bit of upgrade. Insurance, you just pay the highest price once, and then everything else is $0 to upgrade. Those of you who are already referees and you're like, oh, I'm going to do some coaching, whatever, you can add that on your profile as well for $0, provided the club you're working with doesn't charge you a club fee. That is it. What is insurance? It is civil liability protection for us, for the participants, for the game, up to $5 million. It is necessary to participate. So please, please, please do register. Your registration expires on the 31st of August. I did get a few questions. Some people registered late in the season, like April. They said, hey, mine expires in April. No, it's a national insurance policy. It goes September 1 to August 31st. In the province of British Columbia. East of the Rockies that play a couple months in the summer, theirs is Jan 1 to December 31. Availability surveys there. Diving into that really quickly. New process for all appointments at all levels. Thank you to Phil Webster and the members of the appointments committee for putting this in practice. This is what the months look like, making it very simple. So you get your availability in, you'll get your appointments for the entire next month, and then you will get your expenses for that month. So no more waiting on all that kind of stuff. It's all going to be a little bit more streamlined. Who do we contact if we can't come day of? Hopefully that doesn't happen, but Phil Webster, the head of the appointments committee, would be our person if something happens, your car breaks down, your dog runs away, or whatever, heaven forbid. But always, if you can't get a hold of Phil, whatever, phone me, text me, or Amy, my colleague, like we'll make it happen. But Phil is our primary point of contact for any reappointments. So you'll see here every month. It was a week late this year just because we were putting some processes in place, but availability survey will come out on Tuesday of week 2 of each month. So you will find September the 9th, I believe it falls on. Availability survey for October will be launched. We ask that you fill it out within a week. So 7 days to plan or do whatever. If it changes, fill it out again. That's amazing. But after the appointments come out, and something changes, get in touch with Phil. Don't just update the survey, because once those appointments are out for the whole month, it obviously will have a domino effect if someone doesn't show up for a game. So that committee will meet every month. They will strategize, go through what's best for individuals, what's best for competitions, and they will endeavor to, on the Wednesday or Thursday, get the appointments out for the following month. So effectively, if we go September 9th, September 16th, they will meet again. September 17th, 18th, at the latest, you will have all of October there. So at no point this season, provided everyone gets their availability on time and accepts their appointments as per their availability, at no point this season will you have fewer than 2 weeks to plan your life. You will have 2, 3, even 4 weeks to plan what's ahead, even 5 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on how the weekends fall. And yes, we will, when I send out this recording, I will send out Phil's details and all that jazz. And it is in the chat as well. So if you have questions about the new appointments process, the why, the how, all that kind of stuff, happy to chat offline. But again, this is by demand of the people. The vast majority of membership have requested a little bit more advance notice. So new process, but a few months in, we're hoping it's going to make everything better. Off-field admin. So please, 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 if you have in the past failed to see some of this information, review it or ask me. I can walk you through stuff. Monthly availability survey will always be there. I will update it in this that season guide I sent you. I will send you a live link and I'll keep it live every single month. 2025-26 monthly availability process in detail. If you want to see how decisions are made and what the structure looks like, there is like a 12-page process that's available for your reading pleasure. Score reporting. Please, for the love of all good things, get the scores in when the game stops. We've noticed that the more than an hour after games end, or if you're ARing a game, whatever, more than 2 hours after a game ends, the likelihood of you getting that score in before like 3 days is quite low. So fire it into your phone. There's 2 ways to do it. Easiest way, Sport Lomo game management app. Download it for iPhone or Android. Use your registration email as the username. You can use the forgot password function and set it up again if you need to. But that's where your appointments are, and you fire in the score. All we need is the total score for each team and the number of tries. We don't need conversions. We don't need drop goals. We don't need anything like that. And please do not hit the conceded game button ever. And if you have questions on that, please let me know. You can do it through your Sport Lomo referee account, but that requires laptops, very cumbersome. Card reporting, new process. I will show you just now. Let me share my main screen. So it can be done immediately after the game. It will not require Excel. It will not require a laptop. If you have a yellow card, you open the form via the link. It will look like this. If you have any trouble, you email me, I will help you. But all you need to do is fire in the date, fire in which division it is. If it's an exhibition, mixed grade division, no problem. Just give it your best go. This is for data management. Your name, the club, the jersey number, the full name of the player. Please, please, please use the coaches, use your resources. Just get the name of the player. It will help everything along quite smoothly. The law under which they were yellow carded. So you'll notice all the unfair things. So intentionally offended, repeated infringements, they can go here. The reason for that is they're in a different category than the dangerous foul play stuff in terms of the rules of competition. So anything 9.11, etc., fire it down there. There's only one reason we yellow card players. So you don't need to go this law, this law, this law. Pick the reason that you decided to give that yellow card, hit submit, off we go. Red card, a little bit different, a little bit more detailed. Go back to my other screen here. And these are also on the website. I'll show you in a moment where to find them. The little buttons are updated. So date, division, name. We do need the AR's names as well, because there could be some questions asked or whatever. It's just great to have those names there. The club, the jersey number, the name of the player, the proximity of the official. So whoever made the decision. So if we had a flag out, I recommend whatever, and you haven't seen anything, assistant referee was 2 meters away or whatever, 5 meters away, 10 meters away. Law under which they're sent off. Obviously we don't have any unfair play stuff here. So if you have a situation where you have 2 yellow cards, the second yellow card, you give the law the reason in that dangerous foul play. If you do have, for whatever reason, a repeated infringement, like 2 deliberate knock-ons to the same player, it's at the end, 9.9. I put it at the end just so that we don't have any confusion, because that obviously will have different implications for discipline. And then, was a verbal warning or yellow card previously issued? It could be a yellow. If you gave a yellow and then a straight red, doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. You hit yes. If you gave a verbal warning, hey, number 7, don't whack people on the ground, you say yes. All the same. That's all they really need to know from a discipline point of view. The minute in which player is sent off, to your best guess. So second half, 54-15, doesn't have to be precise, especially as we're asking you to do it right after the game. Just has to be approximately so we can find clips and all that kind of stuff. And then the facts of the incident. Really important. Where it was on the field, what were the facts that led to it? We were at a scrum, it went backwards, the scrum collapsed, then number 3 stood up, looked number 1 in the eye, and punched them flush in the head, making head contact with a high degree of danger. All the relevant facts. And then the player's reaction. Hey, they left the field without incident, or they screamed and shouted for 5 minutes and had to be dragged kicking and screaming. That's all we need to know. Very good. So firing through these last little bits, and again, thank you everyone for your patience as we had a lot to get through. Game day checklist, again, most people do these things automatically, but if you're refereeing divisional rugby, so Division 2 and 3, men's, women's doesn't matter, check the squad size guidelines. So effectively, there's always the rule of 3. If there are fewer than 15 players available on the squad, they play 12s. If there are 16, they play 13s. If there are 17, they play 14s. The reason we don't start games with 15 is that when we have an injured player and we started with 15s with no reserves in divisional rugby, now we have this awkward moment where a team goes, well, we started with 15, so we'll stay with 15. You guys are at 14, and we get this big long song and dance. Rules of competition are quite clear. In divisional rugby below Division 1, the team with the fewest numbers will say, hey, we've only got 18 today, we'll play with 15. Amazing. Hey, we've only got 17 today, we're playing with 14. So these guidelines have how many players in the field, how many players in the squad, and how many players in the scrum. So please, please, please make sure you are briefed on that. Just looking at a question. Cool. Awesome. Age grade law variations, full versions are there, but again, the guidelines I have previous will hopefully address most of the pinch points. Try to turn up 45 at the least, 60 is great before games. Meeting coaches, one piece to add from this year, we've written in the rules of competition, we are expecting teams to have technical areas marked. If they don't have them painted, no problem. They chuck out some cones. They don't have to be necessarily 3 by 10. They just have to be between the 10 and the 22. And they have to be on the same side of the field as their opposition. Gone are the days of gridiron football where we have the teams lining each touchline. One team here, one team here. If they want a space to roam or warm up or stretch their legs, they can go to the attacking in-goal area. If you get dramas at this, no problem. Start the game, send me a note, and I will get my 6'7" colleague, because this was his idea. He's seen so much nonsense on the side of from under 14s to Premier. He's like, enough's enough. We're just going to do what every competition around the world does. And if people give you a hard time, say, A, it's in the rules of competition, it was sent to you, and B, this is what every competition in the world does. Yes, Dwayne, always on the same side. Always, always, always. And that's just to control, like coaches, they shouldn't be roaming around anyway. Sorry, John Eady's phoning me. We're in the middle of a call, John. So same side of the field, easy. They can throw some cones out there. There just has to be some kind of markings. Again, it just has to be between the 22 and the 10. That's the minimum standard. And a little bit away from the touchline would be amazing. Technically speaking, they're supposed to be outside of the ropes. We're not going to die on that hill. There just has to be a designated area. Some teams are already all over this and have painted their areas already and have sent in pictures. Amazing. Others are going to need reminders. But please, please, please help us with this process. And if teams are not doing it, feed it back to me, and I will make sure that it is re-clarified with all the parties that have already been informed. Cool. A couple other things. Coaches, they can be here. If they're going to be behind the dead ball line, fine, cool. They're not going to be in the in goal. They shouldn't be on the field, all that kind of stuff. And they're not carrying teas or water. They can get a substitute to do that. If they don't have a substitute, they can grab someone from the entourage. We're just not dealing with that, because last year we had this thing about, oh, I'm not a head coach, I'm an assistant coach. Doesn't matter. You're a coach. Stay off the field, please. also challenges them to have a plan in place for their communication. Coach Logic. So again, this is there for you. If you do not have a login to Coach Logic, it's free. Click here, set it up. And then the feed link is in here. Very quickly, once you get into the feed, if you're like, I don't have a lot of time but I want to get ready for the game. I'm not sure what my tackler pictures look like. Type in the word tackler. There you go. Never onside from tackler. Very good patience from Juan Pablo. Player gets up, does not let go. All different tackler pictures. Always using that same language. Jackler, same thing. You can have a lot of different examples of jacklers from a lot of different levels. If you want to see that croc roll, I won't show it, but you can probably find it really easily. Or if you want to see, oops. I believe it is not too hard to find. Oh, good. We have a few others in the frame, but obviously it's become a thing because we have several examples of it. But oh, there's the bad one if you want to see it. I'm not showing it on this call. Sweet. Please use it. Watch the footage. You can find it in the video room. Create clips, ask questions. The more activity on there, the more I can report back to the sponsors who pay for our nice, expensive tool, which I use to develop all this stuff for you guys, for coaches, for players. It's really powerful. And the more clips you make using the key focus area language, the better it is for everyone. Quickly on discipline, obviously those red and yellow card forms are on the website and here. Discipline decisions are uploaded there if you're interested in that. They follow Reg 17, all that stuff. Please, all these cards need to be reported. Last year we had we estimated 40% compliance rate for yellow cards report forms because we had clubs going, hey, it's playoffs. TJ's received 3 yellow cards. Do they have to appear at a hearing? And then we go through archives and we only have 1 yellow card from TJ. So like in the age of the internet and people knowing everything, please, just get them in. If you need help, let me know. Code of conduct, hopefully that playing enclosure integrity stuff helps. But again, there's 2 ways you can report and share code of conduct stuff. Number 1, if we have what we call a referee incident, so unwelcome behaviors, someone's just gonna saying things and being unsportsmanlike or whatever term you want to use, and it creates a negative environment for you or your peers, maybe your peers next week. Shanda has put her hand up. That's her email there. Most of you have her number as well. She is going to be the point person on the actionables there. If there's something serious, so there's serious verbal, so defamatory, derogatory, racist, homophobic, all that kind of stuff towards you, towards another player, towards a spectator, doesn't matter who called whom what. That is serious verbal abuse. That goes straight to code of conduct process and hearing, and any physical abuse. So if someone comes and touches you, same thing. Like that is not on. Please get that here. If you need a phone call or whatever, either to Shanda or to myself or to a friend, by all means, go through that process. But we really need to get that information in. And I know sometimes it's not dealt with in the way that we want to, but if we don't report stuff, then obviously we're not going to create any kind of change. Recognize, remove, we've already been through that. And again, your on-field resources are all here in one spot to find. Key focus areas, global update, 1-pager, squad size guidelines. I put in our document of physical training resources for liability reasons. No gym-based stuff that I can provide you, but I can provide you some interval training and care circuits. So they're there in a folder for you. And the resource page is here. That's where you find the yellow card reports and all that kind of stuff if you lose these PDFs that I send you semi-regularly. Sorry for going over time, everyone. Thank you very much. And please enjoy the season.